did it.
So good.
We're here. Estamos aquí.
Sí, feliz Día de los Reyes. I
Yes.
wanted to say something real quick.
You
I
said
just
real
found
quick.
out something, and I wanted to share it with
Wait,
you.
you
Oh,
said real
no.
quick. Hey everybody, we're now on the last hour,
Yeah.
where I got two dope guests. But reset real quick. My name is Rosa Clemente. You're watching Disrupt the Chaos. I'm host and producer of the show, sponsored by Cooperation Jackson. If you want to really help me grow this into the Afro Black Latinx network that I want to grow, hit me up. If 1,000 people that follow me gave me $10 today, I'd have $10,000, and we could be on 2 times a week with a producer and social media person. Hey, maybe somebody out there is rich and famous. It's like, I'll give you $10,000. Hit me up. I'll take that. But in this current juncture, even though there are things that we call progressive media, I do not believe anything is for us as Afro and Black Latinx people. But I do believe that this sister, as well as my other sister from Latina, are incredible, but they're also everyday facing amounts of anti-blackness, particularly from men. And honestly, Debbie, I didn't realize
Yeah.
it. I don't know what happened with my algorithm. It might have been that I was on a call with Latina, and then I see all these videos of men going against you and her with all the TikTok in it. And I was like,
But it
I
was
s-
mainly her, and that's what really
well
like,
that
so I wanted
so
to say something
so,
once I saw all of it. I didn't
so
even realize.
Black Dina is very phenotypically darker than me or Debbie. And
Yeah.
Debbie's already bringing it in to say more her, which is exactly the point, right? So
Sí.
the reset is you're watching this show. We've been doing it for Los Dias de Reyes, obviously special episode. We started the new year with like it might be good, and then in 48 hours, the country's bombing Caracas, and we're like, what the F? And I'm like, oh
Same.
no, we gotta bring people together. But honestly, for me, because I'm such a fan of hers, we have never been in space together. I was like, girl, can you come on?
Yeah.
Because I remember all the times as I was I never thought I would be a journalist. A couple elders at WBAI, specifically, may she rest in power, Sophia Bakari, and my mentor, Sally O'Brien, were like, you have something good, come on a show. And then I wrote an article called Who is Black? And it
Mm.
was 2001. And at that time, you were doing fax machines or like Axe Jeeves. And this brother, who I now refer to as the premier hip hop journalist, Davey D, I don't know how he found me. He's like, I'm going to put your article on my MySpace page. This is why it's dating me. Dating because
Me
Black
encanta.
Peter and Debbie and it's purposeful for me to bring younger voices on. And then one day I get a call from the Nation of Islam, their paper called The Final Call. Whatever you want to think about the Nation of Islam, The Final Call is a weekly newspaper of Black and Indigenous issues that's been happening for 60 years. And
Wow.
it was a sister, and she said, can we take your article and put it in the Final Call? And I said, yes. And the reason I knew a lot about the Nation of Islam was, I mean, living in New York, but that I had friends, and I think all their work is always doubted because they are Muslims. And so when I got here to college, I made a relationship. I was like, oh my God, the Final Call. But then what I didn't realize is the Final Call was actually a paper let into brothers in the New York State prison system. So then I
Oh,
started
wow.
letters from brothers, Latino brothers, and then I joined Malcolm X grassroots movement. I was like, yeah, I'm a fucking Black Puerto Rican. Let's go. But it shows the impact that a story can have. So
Mhm.
for me, watching you on Instagram, I'm not just getting a story, I'm getting news.
Yeah.
So this is my guess. I'm already fawning. I want her to realize that she's also a journalist.
Yeah, thank you so much. No, yeah, it's funny you telling me that story was bringing me back, like how did I start all of this and where did we, how did we all end up here together? But
Yeah.
you're right. It's other people recognizing, your voice and wanting to actually uplift your voice and say like you actually should be up there talking to people and you should be sharing these stories. And so I'm so glad because I remember we talked many years ago too when I was like still kind of like a little bit lost with the podcast. I didn't go into this like this mic right here. Actually, I'm using it again. This is the first mic I ever bought. Had no technical skills, no idea how to use anything,
When
no
I was
idea how
saying,
to
do your
start.
shit, girl, go.
Yeah,
I'm
and so
with you.
I'm just telling I'm saying this to like everyone who's watching too, like if you want to start to also share stories, I feel like we have a lack of them, right? Like when you think about Black Latino and you think about other Black creatives that are out there, it's like there are some now, but there didn't used to be. And that's the reason I got into it because I'm like I don't see anyone who looks like me doing any of this. So
Well,
all the
glad
podcasts
you
were
bring
white
that-
men and I was like, nah.
well, I'm glad you bring that historically because I think for a while I was that person,
Yes. Yep.
just me, right?
Yep.
And because the Black community in all has embraced me, and then also having Millie Capote and Dr. Maita Moreno Vega in the Caribbean Cultural Center
See.
and my comrades Lumumba Madi Nieves, like breaking it down, was like, no, I'm not the only one. I think
Exactly.
I think what happened for me is that I didn't grow up in the movement. So
Same. Yeah.
all those years in Brooklyn and the Bronx was my training.
Mm.
But for a long time, I was definitely like one of the few that was like, fuck that, I'm a Black Puerto Rican. And people were like, why don't you say you're Hispanic? Why don't you say you're this? And then people would be like, well, you identify this. Why are you speaking for Hispanic Heritage Month? And I'm like, because I'm dope and I'm going to try to change all the minds of Hispanic to my
Yeah.
thing. And there was a little bit of a void. And then all of a sudden, in these last 3 years, no, I would say 5, I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing I'm seeing Latina, but I'm also seeing like my crew at Pure on the Map. And I'm like, wait a minute, new generation is out here. And honestly, fam,
Yeah.
if you really look at the work of Pure on the Map, my goal was first and foremost, everybody I bring has to be younger than me. And two of the baddest ass journalists right now, Kate Lasso, Raquel Ricard. I was like, listen, how old are you? You're 27, let's go. And somebody said to me, why aren't you bringing anybody seasoned? And I said, I'm seasoned. My homie Eli, who's my comrade, and everybody else is going to be younger than me because that's how I was brought into the movement.
I love that. Yeah,
Well,
no, it is a matter of bringing people in. You're totally right, and I think that's what this work that we're doing. When in your previous interview, was that Zaid se
it's like,
llama?
yeah,
Yeah, I loved what he was saying about how like there's corporate media and then there's like the media that actually tells you the truth and the ones that force you to like lean in. And I think that like you said, those people who are out there who can fund it or who have those extra funds to like even a little bit will help. But if it's many people supporting people like you, people like me in this, I think we'll actually see a difference. I'm already seeing a difference. I'm already seeing how many people, when I was doing this podcast like a year ago, because I'd taken a little bit of a hiatus to do films. And then I came back into it. And I remember thinking, like, I still don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to keep on sharing the news. Because specifically the news in Puerto Rico it's like filtered through a lens that's just like, it's a lot of propaganda. So I started doing more of these like news segments. And all of a sudden, just an influx of people. And it just shows the power of doing that, of like educating and sharing through a lens that's decolonized. So I'm just glad people are
well,
actually
look,
paying attention.
No, I think what you and have done in this social media space is be consistent, right? So every day. One of my Cheryl's Pam Africa from the movement after I ran for vice president, like, one day is, well, it's coming together in my memoir. I think what a lot of people, well, you were probably in grade school, was 2008. Um, they don't understand what it meant. And to a long time, I didn't understand what it meant. But a lot of my mentors, but specifically Pam Africa, one day was just like, listen, nobody wants to give you a job. You try to go against the president. Like, but what she said to me as an elder is, she's like, you're consistent, and that's why you're important. So watching you, even through all this bullshit anti-blackness and all of that, even the last 3 days, because I've been seeing what you've been saying, and I've been seeing the
Oh
backlash,
yeah. Yeah.
is consistency is what matters. And I believe that you're going to be consistent. But with saying that, I also understand that as strong as we are when we're doing this, there's going to come that moment at night when you're going to sleep and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to like represent my people. Why am I hated this much? Why is this violence? It's not just words. I've seen some of those posts.
Yeah.
They are violent. And it reminds me of just maybe 4 or 5 years ago, with the amount of hate that particularly Linda Sassour has gone. And
See.
because I didn't deal with that we didn't have this when I was your age, but I had enough to be like questioning myself a lot, and also being like, why does everybody hate me? But I didn't have this. Like, thank God there was no
Thank
social
God.
media at that level when I was running for vice president, because I wouldn't have been able to make it. I would have just broken down. So
Yeah.
that's my perspective.
You
Yeah.
hit on it right on the head. If we feel alone, or if we don't find that community around us, then it could definitely hit you. And I think like sometimes the negative comments, for some reason, I mean, I think this is a psychological thing. They almost hold more weight when they shouldn't. You might have more people supporting you, but that one or two horrible comment will stick with you sometimes. And I
Yeah.
think what has helped me is the community, just knowing that I have people supporting me who are like in the comments fighting those haters at the same time, or those violent comments or racist comments. It's to me, it's, I don't know. I think over time, I think it ebbs and flows, right? Like I think now recently I feel like I'm handling it well, in the sense that when I see those comments, all I can think is, oh, this person is so colonized. Oh, this person is so racist. I don't need to give you my time. You're not going to rob me of my peace. But that's not all the time, right? Like there are definitely going to be moments where someone's going to come in and say something super violent. So it is about taking care of ourselves. Like here, it's taking care of like, our community, just moving with purpose, because the minute that I start to put my focus on my community and what we're trying to do, the rest of it just fades away. It's like, I don't care if you want to. I block people all the time that I think are just obnoxious. Now, if they're trying to have a dialogue and they're actually trying to learn, like some people are it's tough for them to fight the decolonizing, like it's kind of interesting when I've sort of seen people kind of questioning, but then if you can just lean in a little bit, and just the consistency, like you said, once
Yeah,
people
but I also
consistently
look.
see.
Well, so again, like I also feel that it's a very different thing of what I had, because if people were hating on me, I would know 2 days later. I would not know 10 seconds later, right? So like
Yeah, that is
when
the
when
difference.
people are
Yeah.
hating on you, you make your post within 60 seconds,
Oh yeah.
crazy bullshit.
Yep.
That would be 2 days for me. You see what
Yeah. No, I hear you. You say
and also like having a husband and a family that was supportive, but
exactly.
the main thing is being in an organization.
Mm-hmm.
And and I do think that a younger generation is not understanding the importance of what it means to be in an organization, because you can create content, but what does that mean if you're not part of an
Yes.
organization? Yeah.
Yes. I'm so glad you went there. That's exactly what I was thinking when I found the Bori Collective.
Yeah.
If no one has seen that one, they should go back to the beginning of this because I really
And they
loved.
were just with us. So the Bori Collective,
Yeah,
we learned so much from. They were just with us, and yeah.
they're awesome. But I remember hearing the same thing, and I remember thinking to myself when I first started the podcast. Just I guess to give people a little bit of context, I started this podcast about 6 to 8 months after Huracan Maria hit. And that was because 2 months after the hurricane, I got a call. I was living in Boston doing my master's in public health. And I get this call at like 4 in the morning, and it's my mom, and she's hysterically crying. And she is telling me that my stepdad had just had a heart attack. This was 2 months after the hurricane. He's a
Mm.
Black Afro Puerto Rican from Tuabaja, Puerto Rico. Uh, Loves salsa, loved to sing. He was part of a band. He made my mom like so for they were married for 2 years. They kind of met late in life, and he was the love of her life. She was like, "I've met the love of my life." And when the hurricane hit, their area was inundated, so the car that they had
So
was
where
no
is it?
longer.
Like specifically in Puerto Rico?
In Tuabaja was where he lived. Yeah. And so the car was told like they could not run the car anymore. So they had to walk for miles for food and water. And when, later on after his death, I saw the news and I saw how water and food had been sitting in warehouses because the Puerto Rican government either was so inefficient or had purposefully done it, which is criminal.
Wait. Let me stop you
Yeah.
there for a quick second. You say purposely hidden?
I say,
No, you're right. No, and
yeah.
this is what I'm going to build on. After Hurricane Katrina, I
Mm,
don't know. I don't know what made me say, "Oh shit, let me go down there" in 2005, and I found like two amazing brothers, and one of them, his name is Bradford Young, is the first Black cinematographer
oh, wow.
to get an Oscar nomination. So he's been the cinematographer for Selma, Ryan
Oh,
Coogler's
my
movies.
God.
But this was 2005. So anyway, I don't know
Okay.
how I did it. I didn't really even have too much of this. I probably was calling people like, "Give me some money. I need some gas," right?
Yeah.
And we go down there, and because I had a press pass, the National Guard allowed me. We get to so folks, I'm referencing, just understanding people might not have been born, but I'm referencing the Hurricane Katrina and the levee breach in New Orleans in 2005. So we go down and we're like at the convention center. And one of the brothers we're interviewing, he goes, "You see that?" And I was like, "Yeah, that hotel." He goes, "No, come here." We walk across the street, the bottom, it was like a warehouse full of medical supplies and water, less than 100 feet away from the convention center where Black and brown people, right? And that was when I was like, "Oh, so you're saying that it's the same thing that happened in
It's
Maria."
the same thing. Yeah. It's all connected. That's why I always think to myself, like, we do have different, right? Like when you think about the issues here on the island, they move differently, but it's all connected to the same racism, the same white supremacy. So that's exactly what happened. A lot of people were like, why are all these warehouses so full of food and water when people were desperate, and people died because of it. And so I think after my stepdad's death, I remember coming to the island and spending a month here with my mom and thinking to myself, I am not going to let this stop here. I'm not going to just say like, oh well, this is horrible and move on with life. I felt like that was a big moment for so many diaspora. I think that's a big reason why a lot of diaspora moved back, because they were trying to find a way to either help or connect with their roots. And so, yeah, the podcast really started from a sense of I wanted to learn what ways, through the public health lens, right? Through, okay, let me identify something and give people in a digestible way. This is why these kind of like connecting the dots for people. And I think that's happening more and more now. I think I finally kind of like, now that I've met people and like through the process of doing the podcast, really wanting to learn what ways we can do things. You know, for a long time, people were like, okay, but what can we do? And now that I'm finding the community and I'm finding those organizers that I can send people to and say, this is a place. This is where you can go to learn. This is where you can go to actually be part of the movement, rather than just like watching from the outside and thinking, oh, there's nothing we can do. So yeah,
Yeah,
so I
so
think it's evolved. Yeah.
what does that look like for you? Because you are unapologetic about who you are. I mean, the social media thing is one thing, but have you faced that also in like more the public sphere, right? Like an organization or a conference, and they're like, "You're dope, but don't say that." Have you faced that?
In the sense
Oh,
of
kind of like,
the comments that come in, you
yeah,
mean?
no, no,
Yeah.
forget the comments on social media. I'm more meaning this: you go to a conference, or you're somewhere, and there's discussions about being Afro Black Latinx, and then you chime in, and the reaction most would be like what happens to me, except my nose is clear. But I found this out living in LA. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why are
Oh
you
yeah.
so black?
Mm-hmm. Oh
You know,
yeah.
that's what I,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, yeah, that has happened here to me for sure. There've been a couple of instances that have been a little bit have kind of shocked me, because I think, you know, I kind of came here with the lens that like at least here I would expect that it wouldn't. But that was sort of like my privilege in a way of like thinking like, oh, aquí in Puerto Rico, I'm not gonna face that. But there's so many instances of that. And so I could tell you one. I could tell you one. I was oh, it's such a weird. I think sometimes when it happens, you're sort of left. I mean, now I think I know how to handle it a little bit better, but you're sort of left with like a like why? Why am I being treated
Like
this
what
way?
just happened? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
what just happened? And so I was talking. So I was at an event. That's what it was. I was at this like in El Capitolio. They were trying to do. I think I'm trying to remember if this was about La Parguera or whatnot. So someone approached me, and she's more visibly white, and like a white Boricua, and she also, you know, from up more of an upper class, you know, wealthy family. And so she wanted to have a discussion. She wanted to meet up. She wanted to have lunch. And I remember thinking to myself, sure, yeah, no, I want to meet more people. I want to figure out ways that I can help amplify different things. And so, you know, we're having perfectly normal lunch. And then all of a sudden she's sort of saying to me, like, oh, I got to talk to you about something. I don't like when the diaspora come over here and they think that they can just do anything. Now, we can kind of like dissect that. And
Yeah.
then she starts talking to me about the films that I've done, and sort of like, you know, she knows a little bit of the history, meaning like I didn't go to school for that. I didn't have a family that could pay for film school.
We'll go in
I
this later in the interview, but just name those two films so people know what
Yes.
you're referring
I
to.
want Yeah, so the first film I did was an animated, it's on Vimeo.com. You could find it, called Nuevo Rico, and it's an Afro-Indigenous adventure in a dystopian future Puerto Rico. You guys definitely got to watch that one. And then some of the other films I've done, so Mataron a Pedro, which is supposed to come out soon, is the Albizu Campos short
And
film
I'm just gonna say
documentary.
this, I'm an
Yeah.
executive producer and I love it.
Yes. No, I'm really appreciative of all the
Oh,
people who
come on, girl.
supported.
Thank God, the minute
It
you
was
posted
so
it
hard. Yeah.
was a good moment where I had just spoken out of college and I was like, what? Oh shit. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do
No,
this
thank
for
you.
the
It
NAP.
was it was thanks to you and all the people like who were
Oh,
just
so
like, this has to happen. We got to do
this isn't
something
even
to make
history.
it.
I don't even think
See,
you understand. Once it's out,
see,
the
it's
level of what's about to happen for you in all the ways, and we're gonna be there to protect you in all the ways.
no, yeah, and it was such a spiritual thing too, because I think so many people have said they've tried to do it, and I think the fact that like we were able to, and
You did
again
it
through
with
the
Kristen Mercado. Oh my
I
God.
I was in Puerto Rico. I had just moved here when like we got the call, and it was like, oh, you guys are going to get the first level of funding for it. And I
Yeah.
was in disbelief. I couldn't believe it, but I knew that it was like we had to kind of like that how precious this was, you know, how important it was, and how important it was to bring in people that were here to be able to work on it as well. And so it just, you know, that could be a whole hour conversation, so I won't
No,
go
we're
into it, but
talking
that's the
about
film that we're hoping. So this year,
it's
so
this year.
Latino Public Broadcasting gave us the final bit of funding we needed to finish it, and then they said that PBS, so it'll be on PBS. So I don't know the exact date because they haven't, you know, done the programming yet, but that's the goal. Like, put it on PBS, also put it in film festivals so that people who are in different parts of the
No, dude,
world.
I'm waiting for it to come out, and I'm not
Sí,
going to be
sí.
braggadocious, but I will be braggadocious in
You
this
should.
sense.
Yeah, we have to.
Producer
It's
Judith,
incredible.
I
See, it was a miracle.
we're
Like,
going to be slipping this to Ryan Coogler. The movie is called Mataron Pedro, which means they killed Pedro. Pedro Abisus Campos. I mean, honestly, Debbie, I think just this alone, the intervention, because honestly, unless you're like a scholar or a student in Puerto
people
Rican
don't know.
studies,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, one of the people that worked on it, she did the art production for it. She did an incredible job, and she I remember her telling us like, oh, my family comes from a long line of nationalists, so she's like, I grew up with this, so I know about this. But she was like, I understand though that not everybody knew the history of resistance, and so everyone who was a part of it was like, we have to make it happen because we know that right now there's nothing, there should be more. I don't like, it's kind of sad because like when I came out doing it, I didn't see it as like a, this is just going to be like one film that I do. I saw it as like, I hope this means more people can make these films. So nada, that's my hope that
well,
more
no,
of those
I
films
think that's the
happen.
whole thing. Oh, there's Rod. Perfect. I think the whole thing is that yes, more people will make this. I think the contradiction that we're all facing right now in this country is like,
See.
what the F's about to happen, right?
Yeah. Oh
But at
yeah.
the end of the day, culture, right?
See.
And I don't just see it as a cultural film, it's a political film to me, but
Yes.
I'm like, we got to get ready. We got to be ready to tell the stories. We
Yeah.
got to be ready to deal with the propaganda.
Yep.
You're doing that through this film, but
Yep.
through your podcast, I feel like every day you're just keeping a history,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Even before that August 25th, where you were like, so the shift just rolled up in Arroyo
Mm-hmm.
Eagle and Bad Bunny's performing. I was like, oh my God,
See.
um what being in Puerto Rico, what do you want people to know in terms of the journalism aspect of it and
Mm.
your work as a journalist? Because
Oh yeah.
you're a journalist now. Like, you don't have to go to school to be a journalist. Journalists who went to school are like, yes, but
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to be pundits to
Right.
be on CNN or MSNBC for three
Right,
minutes.
that what I'm trying to do at all. Yeah. No, I think that for me, it's really about being able to amplify voices because I felt that after my stepdad passed away, it was like it was super clear to me that we needed to find ways to keep amplifying stories here from the grassroots level. And so when I found the Body Collective, for example, it was like, okay, perfect. This is also a way where I can not just connect people to like educate them on what it feels like to be here, but also educate them in terms of we have a whole community both in Puerto Rico and in the diaspora that wants to get involved and bring resources here and bring, you know, volunteers here and just figure out ways that we can build that solidarity, because for so long, you know, these narratives have divided us and it's time for us to just like really we're surrounded by military, ¿me entiendes? So I think that like when I first moved here, like the idea of colonialism is started to gain like a different perspective. When you're out in the diaspora, it's very different. So I was hoping with my podcast being here now, you know, I started it out there and now it's here. It just takes on a whole different meaning. And I think it just also, you know, speaks to the fact that like talking about the displacement with Esencia, Proyecto Esencia, which is in the west side. In the east side, now there's another project called Moncoya, MONCA, Moncayo. So I want people to know about these things. I want them to be just aware so that when there are things that we can do, you know, Body Collective, Defiende Cabo Rojo, all these groups that are doing things, we can support them. We can either be there or send someone to be there. Hey, I heard there's something going on. I think that's the way, you know, that's what I'm hoping I can accomplish anyway.
So let me peel this back more personally. How do you feel when you get those hateful text messages? Because I think I always say when I speak, I didn't grow up in a movement.
Mm-hmm.
Born in the Bronx, raised in Westchester County. My parents would be considered, I think, to this point, still like the 1% of Latino community. You know, my father,
Mm-hmm.
bodega, my mom, like, so I know I didn't grow in, I wasn't born into it. And then once my daughter was, I said, okay, my daughter's born into the movement. Okay. So in saying that, for me, if I hadn't gone to college, I wouldn't be this Rosa. Even though I was born in the Bronx and raised in New York, I never even heard. I actually don't
Wow.
remember why I was an American citizen. And it doesn't not mean that my mom and dad were Boricua hardcore. We
Yeah.
got the
Yeah.
candles and the remedies and our food, but we're living in a little town. We're the only Latinos. But then I'm going to Puerto Rico because that's what So I grew up very proud to be a Boricua. And then I go to college and I was like, I'm not black. And someone was like, bitch, you're from Africa too. And I was like, and then I was like, no. I was like, Mommy, Daddy, why am I an American citizen? And I'm like going through all these things. And then
Oh
I'm also
yeah.
recognizing, even in college, that I had a privilege to be like, Mom, can I get some food? You know, kind of thing.
Right.
And I became
Yeah.
politicized because one day I went to an event and it was Richie Perez
Oh
and
wow.
Vicenta, who's in Puerto Rico, young lord. Richie, always respect. And I was like, I don't know shit about myself. And I broke down. Like I
Mm-hmm.
got really
Yes.
angry. I came home one day and I said, how the hell didn't you and daddy tell me any of this? And my mom said, we were trying to protect you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was also like, let's just say I went to school in 1990 and hip hop was amazing. So being told I'm black, and I'm like, I'm not light skinned. I'm like, it was like, and then one of my professors one day said, you're going through the 5 stages of withdrawing from white supremacy. And I was like, what?
Exactly.
The
I
black
love that.
psychologist. And she's like,
Wow.
first you're mad. No, not
Mm,
first, no, first you're like, what the hell? Second, you're now thinking about your whole childhood being like, what? Third,
right.
you feel impotent, like you can't do anything. Four, you're gonna hate white people. Five, you become a revolutionary. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
right. So,
Yep.
but still to this day, I mean, it's pretty obvious. But you know, I spent a good 2 decades where Latino organizations are like, "Oh my God, we want you on our panel, but do not talk about being black." Right?
Yeah, it still happens. They get people get uncomfortable. Yeah, there's still that sense
And
of like
it would be better for your generation, but it seems it's more vile because
mhm,
it's in real time.
social media.
I
Yeah.
don't think I would have made it if I had this. So how you
Hmm.
take care of yourself in
It's
these
funny.
moments?
I think it's just outrage. Like I get angry because I'm like, how dare you?
Yeah,
How dare you?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
How
yeah.
dare you disrespect? How dare you? But it's more like how dare you like come on here and bring in this energy where it's like I'm quite clearly like not I never think I know everything, but when I talk about these issues I come from a place where like I've talked to people who have the lived experience. I have done my research. I'm talking about data. I'm coming at it from that perspective. And so I think for the most part lately these comments they kind of just like slide off me because of that, because I've just been I maybe the exposure to it. I think initially it did bother me a lot, but I'm also like so lucky to see that people do come in the comments and they support me and
For you.
they go back, you know, they go back and forth. I almost don't even need to even respond because there other people are already doing it. And so I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
that
I
that
think
has
the
helped.
reason I made it is I'd never read comments. Like, so I'm a person that I never watch myself.
It's better, yeah.
I'm in documentaries and people like you is so dope. I'm like, I don't watch it. I'm in movies. I'm like, I've never, I just had this kind of thing where I'm like, do not watch anything.
Love it.
But because it's visceral,
Mhm.
right? And then, you're doing the work. Oh, hey, let's
Hey,
go.
hey.
Hey, Rob. We're gonna, oh,
What up?
okay. Oh my God, this is perfect. We're literally at 9:30. We're gonna reset.
Perfect. Yes.
He said, peace, everybody. I know y'all think I'm crazy. I started at 6. I'm 53 in menopause, and I'm about to do 4 hours of live programming with one
Amazing.
producer because that's what we do. So I'm Rosa Clemente, host and producer of Disruptive Chaos. This is a special episode celebrating the Dia de los Reyes. Yes, I am no longer Catholic, but Jesus was an immigrant, and the three kings saved him, and we're good. And I was like, I got to do something. And for me specifically, I always love to have people who are on younger than me. Um, and I've done that purposely because Dr. Maita Morena Vega and Melody Capote and Lumumba Bandelli and Mari Nieves Alba saw me as a younger person that needed to learn a lot of shit. And I did from them.
Mm.
So I'm always like, yes. It's been a great look. Let me just recap. I did my commentary. Claudia de la Cruz broke it down. Then we had Daughters and Sons of Borinquen. Then we had the Bori Collective. We have Baba Saeed Muhammad from the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee. Now we got Debbie, and we're about to close out hard. All right. So
Yes.
I think a show like this is so important. I will always center Afro, Black, Latinx identified folks. But I think what's important to recognize at this moment is that soon social media might not be the best platform, and we're going to figure out ways. But at this time, especially what's going on and always the lack of information of Boricuas and Puerto Ricans and how people are not even understanding like this invasion wouldn't have been possible without Puerto Rico. Debbie was there in August in the dissonance of being in Puerto Rico and Jennifer Gonzalez be like, yes, come through in the middle of the night to Arroyo, Puerto Rico. Y después, 1 hour away, Bad Bunny was singing a lament song about, I don't want what happened to Puerto Rico that happened in Hawaii. And I'm like, homie, it's happening right now, 45 minutes down. But
exactly.
all of us, like Rod, all of my guests knew this is what it was going to be like. But I think, and just framing this specific thing, I also think this is a distraction that this administration is using as the lives of their American citizens are crumbling. This week, 24 million people will lose their health care, right? You cannot now go wherever you shop. Thank God I don't live in a big city because I was very angry at going to Walmart. Yes, I go to Walmart because I'm a working class person and shit should be cheaper. But I was very angry last week to buy 3 bags of avocados that really don't even look like it for $7 in Albany, New York. So I can't even imagine the big cities, and then Debbie, you're in Puerto Rico, so everything's always expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like all these, the failure of the empire, the failure of capitalism, and then how do we talk about what's happening in Venezuela? As it's not just in Venezuela, like this dude bombed Nigeria. He's fucking like, I don't know what his assumption is with Greenland. He's now in a fight with Colombia in Mexico. And I'm like, listen, for me, it all encapsulated this. Yesterday, watching CNN and MSNBC, but watching Stephen Miller, who to me is the architect, and we all should know who he is. We should know that in colleges, he was making speeches about expelling dirty, illegal alien immigrants. But honestly, it made me really understand, especially in Black studies, when all my professors would be like, it's good that you know what they are actually thinking. So Stephen Miller yesterday, Jake Tapper interviews him, and he was like, listen, the world is about force. We're not going anywhere. Whatever country we want, we're going to take. And really, I don't have time for all this conversation. I have a job to do. And I was like, if everybody watched that, maybe we could just go in this way and say we know exactly what it means.
Right.
So that's my little bit of commentary. So I'm gonna bring on Rod Stars. At the beginning of the show, I started off with one of my favorite all time. Which side are you on? But I'm also in the video, so that's why I kind of love it. And then we've been talking to Debbie Perez from Puerto Rico, who has been doing incredible work, but also been facing a lot of backlash. So I want this next 30 minutes to be like, fuck this. This is what we do. So Rod, come on, dude. First of all, you look really nice.
I got my intellectual look with my
Love that hat.
Rosa, Rosa, thank you.
Rosa, Rebel Diaz, Revolution. You
Yes.
know, yeah, we're I always say this, we're living historic moments of oppression globally, and I think that what we're seeing is an empire in decline. Um, a couple years ago, M1 from Dead Prez was like, yo, I compare the infrastructure of the US to like a dying carcass. If you look
Mm.
you
Mm,
look at you look at the New York City subway systems, if you look at our highways, if you look at our train systems, we are far behind the rest of the world. Asia got trains that could get you from point A to point B in a couple hours.
yeah.
Countries that have invested in their infrastructure. The reality with US capitalism is that the dollar is no longer, the mighty US dollar. You're looking at, the yen being the currency that's pretty much running the world right now. And when we talk about, you know, uh, the force grab that we're experiencing right now in real time, this is nothing new. This is part of the playbook of U.S. empire. In Iraq, they gave us that, the fake story of weapons of mass destruction under Bush. Um, to go in there and get that oil. At the end of the day, this is an oil, based economy still. And when you have, a brother broke it down to me the other day. He said, listen, if you want to talk about have people understand what's going on in Venezuela, it takes approximately 4.5 weeks for a barge of oil to arrive from the Middle East. Whereas
Mm.
for a barge of oil to arrive from Venezuela, it takes 4 days.
Yeah, the
So,
Caribbean Sea. You go
yeah,
right to Puerto Rico and Cuba and DR and you're there.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so what we're seeing is no different than 1973 in Chile, the 1980s in Central America. I mean, and the thing is that they're not even trying to hide it. You know, uh, Trump went on record and he said, "This is, he said we haven't really, we've kind of kept the Monroe Doctrine in history." And so, with his, pretty much arrogance that he carries, he talked about it being the
I mean,
dark.
it's not even arrogance. He's like, yeah, fuck it. This is what we want. We're gonna do what the fuck we want. We're
This is
gonna
what
put
it
it
is.
on the
We're
plan.
gonna
He's
run
like,
Venezuela. We're gonna keep the oil. They're not
right,
even trying to hide it. Their
right.
language is
And he's like, if she don't agree with me, I'll take her out too. And I'm like,
yeah.
right, like,
They're,
yeah.
they're crystal clear. They're clearer than ever
Mhm.
about what they're doing.
But
I,
Rob, let me like because something you said that's critically important. Looking at historically, right? Like Venezuela, Bolivia, a lot of what is known as Latin America, the Bolivian Revolution. It's not a one-time off thing; it's an ideology. And the way I was looking at it was also like, so you have 1952, the beginning of the Bolivian Revolution, but then you then go to the 1960s, and African nations winning a freedom from their colonizers. And then you go to late 60 in Jamaica and DR over getting rid of Trujillo, but then you go right into the 80s and the influx of, and Claudia de la Cruz, fam, if you've been with me for the last 4 hours, you know she broke that shit down in terms of like, and then the flooding of drugs. But then if you in the 80s, like me, growing up in the Bronx, or my husband in Brooklyn, the crack epidemic, which was CIA funded, then you go to the 1980s and the dirty wars. But what everybody forgets is in the 1970s, the overthrowing of Allende, and your family, your grandfather, your grandmother, your family, Chilean,
Yeah.
survived Pinochet's retribution of murder.
No, absolutely. And it wasn't just in Chile, it was the whole Operation Condor, Argentina, Uruguay, literally thousands of people that were disappeared. People bodies thrown off helicopters into the ocean, people tortured by School of the America trained military. So what we're seeing is nothing new. The playbook is the same. They want to get the resources, and I think that what we're seeing also is that this is going to set a precedent in that post this Venezuela, kidnapping of Maduro, other countries in the in Latin America are being put on notice that their resources could be taken too. Let's not forget in Bolivia, they've been going at Evo Morales' camp, and because of the whole lithium triangle and what
Yeah.
is used for all the new technologies, your iPhone, those type of things, those all are being built off of lithium and other resources. The copper, uh, Chile have historically been stolen, and so what we're seeing now is an aggressive uh, play by the United States to really show their dominance in the region. And so I think that it's definitely something. Colombia next, you know what I mean. For all we know, Petro
Sí.
and what they've come out and said, and I appreciate you, Rosa, for bringing up ideology, is that they don't want resources in the hands of folks that are ideologically, differing from the United States. So what does that mean? The United States runs under a neoliberal economic models for the last 52 years, with Chile being the experiment for that neoliberal model. They've ran under that, right? And so, just to break it down for folks, real simple, neoliberalism is nothing more than a fancy way of saying new capitalism, right? And
Mm.
basically, the concept of you know closing borders for humans, but opening the borders for trade. In other words, you know what I mean. You look at, for example, even the Zapatista uprising in came because of the signing of NAFTA, the North American Free Trade. So we're clear that this neoliberal model has been a model that has not been about poor people, that has not been about, social programs. And the Bolivarian Revolution has presented an alternative, ideologically, but also economically, and also in material conditions. And so, if you look at, for example, the Bolivarian Revolution with all of its imperfections, it actually was an attempt at using some of these oil revenues to fund social programs. So, for example, under the Bolivarian Revolution in Venezuela, a massive literacy campaign happened in which they eradicated illiteracy amongst adults.
And
Uh,
the and in Cuba, like 98% literacy rate.
Right. Hmm.
Another example of an ideological difference in the United States, right? And so a lot of times, it's interesting. We are, New York, where we have a mayor that was just elected as a Democratic socialist, and I think a lot of times dealing, with, let's talk about it. What is social? That's the project the Bolivarian uh, Thunder was a socialist project. Uh, the revenues of
Hey,
by
Rod, you're coming in and out, so there might be.
Okay.
You're breaking up.
Okay, my bad. It's probably my hood internet. But
No, that's better. No, but listen, the fact that you bring up this, like for me, the electoral political project is dead in this country, right? I'm not mad, and the way he outseated billions of dollars,
Oh yeah.
right? But I also have my line. My line is this: when the next police officer kills a black or brown person, I'm going to need to see your reaction on that. To me, that's going to be the test. It's not going to be his state. Yes, he should have put out a statement as a mayor. He totally did that.
right, yeah. No, and I'm not. I'll be real. I'm not in
I'm
any.
not trying to hate on him. I'm more like this, and someone who has run, there's a difference between running and governing.
Yeah.
And he
Agreed.
really, half of his team are Bill de Blasio's team, right?
Right.
We know there's 400 people in his transition committee. We know some of them. And would me and Rod have been picked? Absolutely not. And that's okay. I don't want to be at that table. I kind of know that some of my comrades at the table telling me what's going on. But to bring Debbie back into the conversation around, like, I think also, no matter how much social media we have in general, the lack of political education is, I think, something we need to be addressing. So, like Debbie, you do your podcast, but you're also with people. Rod, you do your media, but you're also going to the meetings. And I think that's what's missing right now. I think people are saying, I know everything on social media and I can be an organizer. Well, absolutely. You can support something,
Right.
but there's a whole different thing about mobilizing and organizing. Like, I'm not going to no marches anymore. I'm not going to march in DC with 20,000 people. For what purpose? To me, that's mobilizing. I'm going to give that back to the young people. Y'all do you. Me, as Kwame Ture taught us, is organizing. And I think that's the kind of key difference where both of you are at, where you're not talking about mobilizing, you're talking about political education and organizing. And I think at this moment, that's what's really needed right now. So, Debbie, you're doing that, and Rod's always doing that. So, I'm just wondering what y'all think about that.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with saying that I think once I moved to Puerto Rico, it was like I had to learn from the people here. What's the current climate? It's very different from in the United States. And so, I kind of came into it years ago thinking to myself, like, possibly there is a way. And then in our last election, a third party, which is Dalmau, which I think not enough people were talking about it. A third party almost won. But here's the thing, I know we've talked about this a lot, was just the way that there are things that they do that you can't quite, like there's a whole investigative team here, a Centro de Periodismo Investigativo, that did a report showing that there were people who were listed as like dead people voting for the PNP. And so I guess for me, as I'm still learning about this, as I'm talking to other organizers, it's about understanding, like, if the elections here are already rigged, what do people do? And so a lot of it is also saying, okay, well, we can organize, we can teach people about going, being funcionarios, being at the voting booths, because the PNP has, like you said, they have a lot of money they can throw at this, and they can fix the fix or rig it. But how do we, I think a lot of it is just like telling people, like, we can't just say, oh, well, there's nothing we can do.
And
And so
the PNP is like, also then our governor or administrator is fucking Jessica Gonzalez that founded Latinos for Trump. Like, there's some fishy shit going on then. Because I don't even think she should have won that election, right? Like, what's happening here? For what purpose? I mean, the long-term purpose is always going to be keeping Puerto Rico as a Southern command, right?
Yeah.
So, Rod, just around that, like, I mean, me and electoral politics and all that kind of thing. But also, like, I was just watching, when Hugo Chavez came and you met with him, and thinking about everything that the Rebel GS Collective did at that building. That's a whole history that I've been keeping track of, because I really believe that in the future I got to do a documentary about the collective because and the building because for a good 3 years, what an incredible time. Like every weekend we're going. I mean, I had my New Year's Eve party, my going away party at the Rebel DS Collective. But the reason that I was taken from you in that manner was you were just politically astute and politicizing mad young people, and we know that. But in terms of coming from the family that you're in, a revolutionary family, how are you seeing these moments around electoral politics?
You know, I think a very long time ago, I kind of stopped focusing on the electoral politics. You know, it was the idea living in Hunts Point. I lived in Hunts Point for 20 years, and I remember just realizing that the material conditions of folks around me were not changing, whether we were under Obama or
That's
whether
right.
Bush. Um, and I think that for us is what really made us focus on organizing locally. For it's so crazy that you bring up the Chavez visit. Someone, you forget sometimes, but someone reposted a photo of that visit. It was September 17th, 2005, 20 years ago. And you know what I think is important to note, what came of that visit was that Hugo Chavez identified and you know uh, he was brought by Jose Serrano, who wasn't our favorite
I know he wasn't our favorite, but then we were like, what the fuck? He bringing Chavez?
He made the connection, and Chavez came and said, this is the poorest congressional district in the United States, and I'm a champion of poor people. And so,
Incredible.
he donated 235 million gallons of heating oil to the South Bronx. And
Right.
for years, people benefited, in a real.
So, Rod, you're breaking up. So, what I'm going to say is that we're talking about when Hugo Chavez came to the Bronx in 2005. Rod Rebel Diaz, his crew, they had a building in Hunts Point. They were invited to come meet the president by the congressman at that time, Jose Serrano, and the relationship to look Bronx being the poorest congressional district that Chavez gave away money to organizations and didn't ask a question. He was like, "How much do you need? We good, go."
So he supported with heating oil, uh, literally
Right. And
hundred
gave people a break.
and then from that they started um, the Afro Bolivarian Fund, which supported organizations, Mothers on the Move, the Point CDC, even the Bronx Museum got bread from the Bolivarian. And they were the group that supported the Rebel Diaz Arts Collective, um, and it really was one of the main groups that was willing to fund the work. I think that it's important to note that I always say, folks, a lot of times folks are like, oh, Maduro was this dictator. I always say it's important to look at who have been the people that have historically shown solidarity with poor Black and brown communities. You know what I mean? When we talk about, you know, who are the ones that went to go support Angola in the '60s when they were fighting? It was the Cuban Revolution. You know what I mean? These are and just in their actions have historically been on the right side of history. And so for us in the South Bronx, we were blessed to be able to receive the support, and we were able to hold the space down from 2008 until 2013, 5 years of a community space that was an organic crew. We weren't necessarily even a 501c3. We were able to receive the support directly from the Bolivarian Revolution, and it allowed us to have music studios, editing studios, to do political education. Thousands of young folks went through the
No,
Rebel Diaz.
they totally went through rebels that collective. I mean,
And so yeah,
I
us,
think we're at the moment right now where folks are definitely feeling overwhelmed in this country around so many people losing health care and food.
Childcare as well.
Okay,
Childcare.
yeah. I mean, I think if Mandani pulls off anything, if he pulls that out, right? also
Yeah.
understanding the forces that are still going to work against him, even though
Hmm.
he has won the election, what that looks like. I mean, just personally for me, I would never run again, and I don't really dabble in that too much. I mean, I'll support certain people or give like advice to, but I think now that the empire is crumbling faster than it
Hmm.
has, Debbie, what do you think that means in terms of Puerto Rico around the poverty of a nation, right? Like
Yeah.
the continuing rolling blackouts.
Yeah.
The reason elderly people have to leave is because if they have a chronic condition, they can't wait to get to an ambulance or a hospital.
Yeah.
Um, the hyper gentrification, the all of a sudden, as I've been saying throughout the whole broadcast, nobody should know the recipe for coquito, and it should have never been in the New York fucking Times.
Agreed.
But also, I myself have been really frustrated with this entire conversation about the Bad Bunny residency and the money, right? Like
Right.
reading some of my people, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? First of all, it's 100, whatever, even if it's $300 million, it does not compute with $85 billion of an imposed debt. Second, I'm going to need to see the receipts on
Hmm.
Airbnbs and the unintended consequences of white people being like, oh my God, I didn't know I could move here. I mean, if I go there for 152 days, I don't have to pay taxes. I'm going to be all in here. I mean, like even seeing them wearing our hats, and
It's
I mean, I was just like, I fucking hate everybody right now. Like, I'm not hating because if I could have gone, I would have gone. And I would have been like, yo, this is dope, but this is happening right here. Like, I'm I feel like there's a fetishizing of Puerto Rico.
yep.
That's what it
They
comes down
are.
to. It's
Yeah.
a
That's
fetish.
definitely been, yeah, that's definitely been felt and seen. And a lot of Puerto Ricans here have been just really angry about it. I do want to say though, I got to plug my little pava earrings that I make myself. They're on my merch
You're
store.
Puerto Rico,
So
white.
I'm
Like,
gonna send you one. I'm gonna send you one. Pero sí, como que that has been the the consequences of the Bad Bunny thing. But I want to say something about like Rod, what you said about just the fact that like these initiatives that we do, whether through art, whether through organizing, through community events, through different ways that we bring people together and educate them or give them some kind of either education or some kind of path. I think that what I'm seeing, at least from all of these years of doing this and connecting with other people, is that each small thing is actually can have huge consequences, right? And so seeing how all of you guys, like all of us, are doing something, I think is what, that's why when I get frustrated about the elections, and I've said this before to many people, I think that if someone were to really be about socialism, about independence for Puerto Rico, I don't think they would allow them to win in any way, if that makes sense. Like I think Dalmau got really close, but I don't think that there's any reality, I mean, surrounded by US military right now and weapons, that they would ever allow that here.
No, for sure.
So how do we do? Yeah.
I think that that's what it's about. It's about
Community, yeah.
building community, organizing locally with a global perspective, but organizing locally and building pockets of resistance. We are
Yes.
about
Yes.
even like the idea of I think it's an example. A lot of these autonomous organizations that are saying, you know what, we're not going to necessarily win if we go head to head with the state, so let's try to build something outside of the state. Let's grow our own food. Let's teach our babies. Let's, you know what I mean, like let's do homeschooling for the kids. Let's do you know uh like literally creating spaces that are pockets of resistance. And I think that we're seeing that all across the country and really all over the world. I think that even in Puerto Rico, you have post, Hurricane, Maria, which we always said was, the real hurricane was colonization. How Hurricane America had been hit Puerto Rico, and how groups realized that the state wasn't going to go save them, and how many amazing examples of like self-determination came from that state abandonment and institutional abandonment. And I think that for us, that's really been like the model of organizing, is organizing horizontally, building with community, respecting mother nature, and kind of like, really, I think in many ways kind of like organizing how our ancestors did. And I think that more than ever that seems to be the route, that I think is gonna be really changing the world. And so I think that those pockets of resistance are super important. And I think that those pockets are spaces that include culture and music and you know some type of joy that we can find
Mm.
dark times. And I think that that's really what I feel is what's gonna help us, survive. I think really about that. It's that serious. It's about survival at this point. And
Yeah.
how can we come together, and create spaces where people can survive and try to live life with the small dignity that we have access to.
And also, look, for me, going down there with the crew, right? And shout outs all the time. Sense, come on, dude. I wouldn't even have known Sense and Beast Factory. I always tell Sense, you're an activist too.
Oh, for sure. He's
Right?
has a
He's like, you are. Raquel Higad, Cat Lasso, Eli Fantuzzi. I mean, the only thing I remember was like, I'm gonna ask a lot of white people for money because when Hurricane Maria hit, it was kind of crazy. I was at an event at the University of Carolina of Charlotte, and the event kind of got canceled, not because of me, but the students earlier that day had toppled two of like the white supremacist statues on the campus.
I
So
love
like,
it.
like, what's happening? And they're like, oh, Miss Clemente. And I'm like, Miss Clemente, nothing. Fucking, I want to know what's going on. Like, I was like, yo, let's switch all this up. First of all, I need to know all the students you just detained are going to be free. Then we're going to regroup on the campus. I'm going to do my speech and go. I come home and I was just like, I don't know if I could go down there. And my dad's like, are you going? And I was like, Dad, I ain't got no money. I don't. He's like, figure it out. And I was like, okay. A couple of days, and I had told Justice, my husband's purposely, I want everybody to be younger than me. But once we got there, it hit me in this sense that once Donald Trump threw the paper towels, people were like, fuck this shit. We're about to do for ourselves. And for me,
Yeah.
changed the
Yeah.
consciousness of a nation that had always believed, what would we do without America? What would we, and we did what we did. And what has come out of that 10 years next year is an entire new movement, a rematriating, like
Yes.
people, Boricuas that we know that grew up living in the United States, moving back. And then I'm like, yo, don't be hating on people going back. The reason they couldn't stay there because it was a forced migration from the beginning. To
Yeah.
me, I don't want to say in any way it was good because also honestly, like we uncovered the truth about how many people were dying. And luckily,
Same.
Harvard did do that research
Yeah.
with their students, right? So, like, how the consciousness can shift. So, for me, what I'm seeing now with what's going on in Venezuela is I am beginning to feel the consciousness of some Americans being like, we didn't vote for this. And I'm like, well, that's who you got. But I'm not going to hate on you and I'm not going to throw you aside as a human person. So, what would be a couple of things that both of you would tell everybody as we close out tonight? First, about being consistent, even when it's really hard, because I
Yeah.
do find you and Rod to be like one of those people like me who, even in the worst of times when we're going through it, at the end of the day, our legacy is going to be like, I might not have like Rosa, but she was consistent. I really didn't like Rod, but he was consistent. Which challenged me for being consistent because that brings me back to our political prisoners. Like,
Same.
in this
Sure.
country. But it also brings me back to what Rock and his family being tortured and
Mhm.
carrying that throughout their sons, but also to the level of that Chicago made a law for reparations,
Yeah.
right? And then it brings me to you, Debbie, as a younger person doing incredible work that you have to face all this bullshit online. What would be a couple tips that you would give to anybody that's watching or becoming
Mm.
an organizer right now of how they can do the work, but also the test always comes when you have to pick that side. And that's why I started
Mm.
4 hours with my favorite video of which side are you on with Rebel Diaz and Deb.
Yeah.
Because right now, with everything, people have to make a choice. What
Mhm.
side are you on? So, what would be a couple of tips you would tell people who are navigating that right now?
Yeah, I think I would say, I always see this comment every once in a while. People aren't angry enough. And I don't think it's that people aren't angry enough. I don't think that they've identified their purpose yet. And I think each of us, right? Like I think of myself, I know you both do as well, have this purpose. Like you have in your head, like this is why I'm doing this. And so I think people need to identify that. I think they need to get with like-minded people, start searching. I think we all have shared people, organizations, things that you can join locally or creating one, educate yourself. But I think it for me, definitely, it's like no matter how hard things are, no matter how much distraction, the consumerism that we've been, grown up with to try to distract us, I think we have to remain grounded in that purpose, and we have to just recognize sometimes the uncomfortable truths of the things that we're facing. So yeah, I would just say for me it's really finding your purpose and identifying some way that you could, because I think a lot of people feel helpless, but the minute that they think, what do I know how to do, what am I good at, and that's when sort of the path kind of starts showing for
Mm,
people. So that's what I would recommend. Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's important for folks to get informed. I think that we're in a space where the algorithms and social media have become the source of information for many people, and it's easy because you can scroll and be lazy about it. But you have to the bottom of things, and don't believe everything you read, but get politically educated. Um, I emphasize political education a lot because I feel like if folks knew what we're dealing with, it makes it more of something to give you the impulse to, now that you know these things, to turn that into organizing. And I think that as organizers, I always say it can't just be online. I think the online world is its own parallel world at this point, and I think that in real time we got to be at the barbershops, from the basketball courts, at the bodegas, you know what I mean, and just like at
Yeah.
every point in life, organizing and building and having conversations. And I think that a thing I always bring up too is that just because you disagree with somebody doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be in conflict with that person. And I think that the sharing of ideas is important. I don't think I firmly believe that we don't have stealth bombers and militarized drones, but I do firmly still believe in the power of the people, and I think that part of that power comes from ideas. And I don't know if the idea to change the world has been brought up yet and turned into an ideology, but I do think that um, people with ideas and people that have the audacity to speak up during these times, which the folks, the powers that be, are doing more than ever to silence us. I think that folks that have the audacity to speak up are going to be, the young folks that are going to change the world. And I think that you know, I don't really speak for being a young person anymore because I see my kids and my nephews. I
Yeah,
mean,
you're out of that range.
at least, at least
I've been out of it for 25
what we
years.
talk. But I say that for the Alicias and the Brocays and the little ones in the world. I think that we definitely, it's our now to definitely do political education and to be on the right side of history and to be brave. I think it takes a lot of bravery in the type of world
Yeah.
to
That's
speak.
right.
And That unlimited bravery is what comes from the ancestors. And I think that we need to tap into that more than ever, and not stay quiet, because staying quiet is being complicit.
I mean,
And
it's consent. Yeah, complicit. I mean, one thing I learned in very early on, it's just because one of my professors pulled me aside. So, as an organizer in college, beginning my process, she said to me one day, she said, "Girl, you don't have to like everybody in the room. You don't even have to hang out with them after it. What's your goal?" So I've always been a person where I'm like, you don't have to like me. I already know you don't like me. That's not the point. Like, the point is, how do we come together, operational unity that comes out of the
Mm.
Nation of Islam? I don't have to like you. Like, I might not believe in everything the Nation of Islam stood for, but when me and Cynthia were getting death threats running, they were there for us, right? Like, they were, I mean, even when I was nominated, like, you know, it was crazy because Rod wasn't there, but his brother was and Latetta was, but also I think your mom or your dad. I was like, I cannot believe I'm on the stage with somebody that survived. Or
Mm.
in the last way to kind of wrap it up is, I think when you understand political prisoners and prisoners of war, which, Rod, you have a bigger understanding of that from your family, um, that when people say Biden freed Leonard, Obama freed Oscar, Clinton freed the 11 FLAN, except for Oscar, I always say, no, no, the movement did that.
people did.
Right? Because going to Jericho March 1998 in Washington, D.C. was the first time I even heard that term, political prisoner, because I didn't know anything growing up, right? But we're talking about people from the Weather Underground, Black Liberation Army, American Indian Movement, Fred Hampton, like, we could go down the line. They've been in jail for 45 years. 30 years of a movement is what freed them. And when they got free, and we've lost so many of the ones that got free, unfortunately, some of them were released because they were dying. Sekou Dingo was released, but then we lost him, not right away. Jalil Muntekan, I always say to Jalil, like, yo, dude, you spent like 43 years locked up. You could go just kind of chill. He's like, I'm a revolutionary. Either I'm doing work in the streets or in the behind the wall. And I was like, yo, I'd be really angry. And he's like, you wouldn't. He's like, but remember, and he said to me, he said, we were willing to give up our lives. And I think one of the things that's a nuance in thinking of that too is that they were young. They were not like 30. They were like, I'm dropping out of high school at 17. Mumia was like, I'm out at 15.
Absolutely.
Think about the political prisoners and prisoners of war in this country right now who dedicated their lives to liberation, whether it was inside a wall or outside. And you can go to sleep at night and then wake up tomorrow and be like, I'm here. I'm not in no bars. I may not do something big every day, but I could do something every day. And I think lastly for us, the work that we do is not like a hashtag or a t-shirt or whatever. And for me, I think the Ferguson Rebellion really challenged me as a person of the hip hop generation to make sure that I was listening and that I was challenged and that I went into meetings and shut the fuck up and listened. I think about Ferguson and how many people have made millions of dollars off while those sisters and brothers have been for 11 years facing the wrath of a system that wants them to be disappeared, right? So as a reset before we all go, I really want to thank everybody for rocking with me. I did 4.5 hours.
Thank
I,
you. Love you.
Amazing.
I don't know, but I did. um, if I can't be in the streets reporting, then I'm going to be here in my office showing you just some of the brilliant people we had tonight. we started off with Claudia de la Cruz. Woohoo. Y después we went from Daughters and Sons of Borinquen. Then we have Bori Culture on. Then we have Zaid Muhammad, Baba Saeed, Malcolm X Commemoration Committee. Then we had Debbie Perez with the Puerto Rican podcast, right? And then we end with Rod and with Debbie. And Rod knows this. Like, I feel like you always have to have a counterpoint. Like, me and Rod have really good conversations where we challenge each other, and we love each other just as hard as we challenge each other. So listen, I want to grow this, but the only way I'm going to grow this is I'm not going to get a grant. I'm not going to go begging white people for money. My Cash App is Black Rican 1972. My Venmo is at Clemente Rosa. I want to build from this show what I am building, the Black Latinx Media Collective. I want to build the way Black Liberation Media and Black Power Media have built to be kind of a network. Because even at this moment, the voices of Afro-Black Latinx people are always erased. And unfortunately, the people doing the erasing are other Latinos who hate themselves. Y después, you know, I've been telling Rod, I'm like, dude, you got to do a podcast. But what I think we need to understand at this moment, even though all of this exists, not the level of disinformation, but in one shot, the government could be like, it don't exist.
Agreed. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
In one moment, they could be like, oh, we're about to round all you up. And if anybody who's doing organizing or anything work thinks they're safe with these maniacs and what they're saying, and if people don't already understand that they are like real, they're like, we trying to give it to all of you and not lying about it. We got to use this as much as we can use this. But part of it is also like being in rooms and hugging people together. So if you're not part of an organization, join one. If you don't know what you think you should know, don't think like that. I mean, I didn't come out of a movement house. So I had to go to college and meet people that I was reading to be like, oh my God, this is the world. If people in Puerto Rico, like, we're never going to win. Well, you know what? We've been winning since 1898 because we're still here. If people are like, we're not going to win in Chile right now. Well, you know what? We did. Chile did win. And then the United States took over, and then there was progressiveness. And now there's a right-wing person. We still keep it moving. And lastly, everybody right now understand that the dream of Marco Rubio is to invade Cuba. And if people think that's not where he's going, just see how quiet he's been. Just see everything he's been doing. Because for Marco Rubio and those right-wing Cubans that are in Miami, it's I'm not going to say it because it's a sexual term, but it's kind of their dream. And we better be on understanding, because they killed 32 Cubans that were protecting Maduro and his wife. They killed 80 people more in Caracas. If you think that's not going to impact Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, or Haiti, you're sadly mistaken. So I appreciate y'all staying on longer. I appreciate everybody who watched. And yeah, you know, we'll be back and we'll do another dope thing. But I'm really excited about what happened today and the people that came on. And I love every single one of you. Debbie, you know, I gotta hug you, girl.
I'll be there soon.
4 hours, so and then Rod, you know, I don't even need to tell you because you're wearing my name on your hat. So I love you. So everybody share all of this, support these organizations. Thank you. We love you. I'm out.
Clemente.
Bye. Valente.
Hey everybody. I don't know, like, it did not cut off. So I don't know how much everybody watched, but thank you. Yeah, we're still here. I mean, wow, I really thank you, everybody. So everything's uploaded, and I will share the link. I hope that people who watch or just watching, I hope that you just got a lot of like information and got to meet some of the people in my life that I admire, and I love the work that they're doing. And I'm always about bringing younger people into space. And everybody here, I'm sorry I couldn't get to your comments. And I appreciate some of you donating, but as I grow the show, I definitely want to be able to make sure that I can talk to people that are commenting. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Peace. Thank you, everybody on Instagram. Appreciate. Love y'all. Peace. Peace, everybody. Have a good night. Oh, wait, everybody. Oh, I don't know if y'all still here. I just want to say, oh my God, thank you for all the comments. I appreciate y'all. Debbie, yes, killing it. Yes, yes. Oh, good. That was your friend. Debbie's amazing. She's the best. Thank you, everybody. People loving Rod. Selah, lack of political education. Yes, and on the ground, actual grassroots organization within our communities so we can have real possibilities of power and education by the grassroots. Oh, Boricua Unidos, I'm so sorry. Like I messed up. I'm gonna reach out to you and we're just gonna do an hour on all the work that you're doing. Sorry, it like producing a show alone is so hard. Okay. Both parties have sent money to Israel. Absolutely. Oil program, Selah. We admire all those socialist leaders. Oh man, thank you everybody for your comments. In the future, I will try to be more responsive, and I really appreciate all of y'all. Wow. Oh, Ruber wants to invade Cuba because that's his dream. His family was exiled, and that's all he's ever talked about for 20 years. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Yes, and cha-cha presente always, all the time. Appreciate y'all.